Hey guys, August here, coming to some Final Fantasy XIV, and today I'm going to speak about how to be playing a white mage at level 90 in Endwalker. Let's get straight into it, shall we? So as a healer, your job is to keep everyone alive and to put out as much DPS as you can to make the dungeons go faster and the raids go faster, not in rages. You can all get your currency or loot faster, including yourself. So if you're not DPSing, you should be hit, or if you're not healing, you should be DPSing. So talking about that, let's get straight into our DPS kit as a white mage, which is a pretty strong kit. So for our single target, we have Blade 3, which is our single target cast. You just want to be spamming that if you're not healing. And then we move on to Deer, which is our single target dot. It puts a 30-second damage over time on the target. You want to keep that up on the boss at all times. And then S size is also a heal, but it is also part of our damage rotation. It is an AoE and it is on a 45-second cooldown. It restores 5% of your MP and it does a 400 potency heal and damage to all enemies nearby. The heal is to allies, obviously. I would say use that on cooldown. That is honestly my favorite skill on White Mage. Just it's so strong and on such a short-ish cooldown, you want to use it on cooldown pretty much. Don't be saving it because you will lose more than you gain at the end of a, say, a 10-minute fight, and you keep holding SIs for like a minute or something, you'll lose so many SIs. If you have to hold it or you want to hold it for something that's upcoming that you know about, I would say 5 to 10 seconds maximum. Don't hold it longer than that. And then moving on, we have Holy, which is our cast AoE skill. This does 150 potency to everything around the white mage, and it stuns them as well. Really strong AoE to spam in dungeons, and it also stuns the mobs initially. Yeah, they will build up a stun resistance, but it's good initially because the tank won't take any damage. And then I would say on like your third holy, you start putting regens on the tank or shielding the tank, and him as well should start using cooldowns at that point. Just so you guys can save a few seconds on cooldowns and stuff, just to make it more efficient. But yeah, that's pretty much it for DPS. And then Presence of Mind reduces your recast times pretty much, and auto attack delays by 20 per second. 20%. 20 per second. 20%. So it just makes your casting a little bit faster and reduces also the PCD, so you don't have to wait. You can just spam pretty much. I use that in my opener, and then after that I pretty much use it on cooldown or use it in conjunction with other raid buffs. It is on a 2-minute cooldown, so you guys can look at it with the Astro buff, the Rune buff, Ninja buff, something like that. But yeah, use that often. Even use it on cooldown pretty much. You could use it for really heavy AoE healing, but you have so much in your kit that you wouldn't have to rely on Presence of Mind to AoE heal. And then moving on, let's speak about lilies, because lilies also is a part of our healing mechanic, but also a part of our DPS mechanic. Now if you see over here, my lily bar is full, and the way that it gets full is it regens a lily in combat. You see, I'll use one over there, and then now we'll start. This little blue thing has to fill all the way up. I think it's about 30 seconds it takes to refill or something like that. Oh, might even be faster. But yeah, lilies build up in combat, and then if you use one of the blue lilies, which you use on your healing skills, let's speak about them for now. A Flayed Solos is a 200. It's a tier 2 pretty much, but single target tier 2, and it's free MP. It just costs 1 lily, and it grants you 1 blood lily. And then the reason we're speaking about this now is because to use a Flatus Misery, which is an AoE skill, but it does use blood lilies. We need to speak about the lily system. So you see one built up again. And this little pink thing over here, if you use your lilies 3 times, you'll build up to 3 stacked blood lily, and that's what a blood lily looks like. And that unlocks your Afflatus Misery, which is a really hard hitting skill, and it does do AoE damage as well. It's 900 potency to the first enemy and then 25% less for all remaining enemies. So it's stronger than Holy, and it's also stronger than Glare. That's your hardest hitting ability. You should be using it as much as possible, and you could even like use your lilies on the tank in a dungeon or something if he doesn't need heals. Just like use them and to build up your blood lilies, because you don't want to ever stack at 3 lilies. You never want to be sitting at 3 lilies. If you have to hold on to lilies, or you want to hold on to them for some reason, I would say 2 lilies maximum. I myself barely ever have 1 lily like usable, because I'm using them for healing and just building DPS and everything like that. But yeah, that's how the lily system works. And there's another lily skill called the Flatus Rupture, which is an AoE heal. It's pretty much a medical 1 on a lily. You can see that uses the lily, and that's how the lilies work. 1 more lily and we have the Flatus Rupture again. That was a single target lily. So that's the lily system explained. Let me reset the training dummies. It's also a new thing you can do now with Endwalker. It's great. Reset the dummies. And you see, there our lilies have stopped regenning, because they only regen in combat. Okay, so let's move on to our healing skills. So for single target hardcast heals, we have tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1 is your like spammy kind of a, you can spam this and it doesn't use too much MP, but honestly, you have so many other heals, you should not be sitting there spamming that. You should be sitting there spamming glare and then doing all your other heals. And then if the tank is really in need of a big heal, tier 2 is your go-to top the tank up heal. It's a really hard healing skill. 800 potency, it does cost 1k MP, so you should not be spamming it. But in case of emergency, that's how you get the tank up. Or if the tank is just dropped below like 40% and you have nothing else, everything else is on cooldown, chuck him a tier 2, and by that time something should come up. And then moving on to our instant cast single heals, we have Tetra, which is a little bit less stronger than a tier 2, but it is free and it's instant cast, does have a 60-second cooldown, so pretty much be using that off cooldown. You have no reason to hold it pretty much. Use it whenever you need to, or whenever you need to heal the tank, use it off cooldown. And then another more heals we have for single target would be Benediction. This is a full heal. Doesn't matter how much HP they have, it will always heal all of their HP. So if they have 150k HP, it will heal them for 150k. That's how it works. It's a 100% heal. So it's really good to use if the tank is about to die, or right after the tank using a cheat death skill like Home Gang or Bowlight or something like that. You use that Benediction to top them right off. And if you're gonna do that, look at the tank's debuff on his Living Dead, for example, or Super Bowlight. Just before it runs out, like 1 second, you hit Benediction, because then during that whole time you can be spamming Holy. And since Holy does not need a target, you stand in the middle of all the mobs and you have the tank selected. So say, no, this is the tank. I will have the tank selected and I'll be spamming Holy. And then as I see 1 second on that, I wouldn't spam another Holy, and I'll hit Benediction on him, and he's full healed. We've all got as much DPS as we could, and yeah, we've made super good use of all of our cooldown usage, and we have cooldowns and stuff to mitigate right after that. And that's pretty much all of our single target heals. Well, I guess we could speak about regen. This is it's a heal over time. A regen, you chuck it up on the tank and it'll just constantly heal him over time. It's really good to chuck on him during raids and stuff like that, or even boss fights, because you'll just be taking the auto attacks, so you don't have to heal the auto attacks unless there's a scholar or something with a fairy. But yeah, regen, if you're doing it and you're the main healing, you want to chuck a regen on the tank and I'll just keep him topped off pretty much, and then you just heal him through tank busters and stuff like that. Okay, moving on to some of our AoE healing. We have Medica 1 and Medica 2. Now Medica 1 is a heal. It just does a big heal, 400 potency heal around you. Got a really large range. And this is the heal you want to use if you need to top your group off for an upcoming mechanic. If you will die if you don't have enough HP, then you'd use Medica 1. And then you could also use a Flatus Rupture, which is exactly the same thing. It just uses 1 Lily and it's instant cast. And then if you do have an AoE coming up where you need to heal the AoE but you don't need to top everyone off right away, you would use Medica 2. Costs a little bit more MP, does a little bit less initial heal, but it puts a regen on. And that will just pull you up by the time there's another AoE coming out. So yeah, Medica 2 is your top up slowly AoE pretty much. I use that more often than I use Medica 1, unless I know that we need to be topped up. Then I use Medica 1. And then another skill, which is our strongest AoE heal, is Cure 3. So people have this misconception that Cure 3 is a stronger Cure 2 for single target. It is not. Cure 3 is an AoE heal. But the problem with it is that it has a really small range. It's like 6 yards around your character. So to use Cure 3 effectively, everybody needs to stack up really close on you, like I would say, like that maximum around you. All the way around your character. So only use Gear 3 if everybody is stacked up, and if you need to be topped off for whatever's coming next and it's raid wide, then Gear 3 is your strongest. And you want to try and use that in conjunction with Thin Air, which is our MP skill pretty much. After using Thin Air, it makes your next skill not cost any MP. So that's really good for Tier 3 and even Tier 2. But yeah, never let that build up the 2 charges. It has a 60-second recharge time and it can have 2 stacks. So you always want to use one of them on anything. Doesn't really matter what you use it on, as long as you're using it, you're saving that MP. So just make sure to use it. And then another good use for it is to raise people. I like to swift cast and then thin air and raise people during stream trials or learning parties or something like that, getting used to the fight, or someone who just died to something they didn't know. Really good raise mechanic, since raise is your most costing skill, and then tier 3 being the next one. But yeah, use thin air, don't let it stack up. Okay, moving on to, well, I guess this is another AoE as well. Asylum is a placed heal that you place it down, and it does AoE healing inside this asylum over time. It's a regen pretty much. And then anybody standing inside here has the healing magic increased. So healing actions pretty much. So all the healers will do increased healing to everybody standing inside because their heals will be stronger. So if you have a really big raid white coming up, chuck this up. Scholar shielding will be better. But if you even just need a regen after a raid white, what's good is you chuck up Asylum and then a Medica 2. So the Medica 2 will actually be stronger and regen for more. So Asylum and Medica 2 should be enough to top you guys off over time. Will be pretty fast actually, because the regen will be strong for Medica 2 with Asylum, and Asylum has its own regen, and that's how you use Asylum pretty much. And then as well, let's speak about plenary indulgence. We used to call this planetary indulgence, I don't know why, but yeah, confess your sins pretty much. So this grants confession stacks to everybody around you in AoE. Confession whenever you heal, so with Medica, all your AoE heals, Medica 1, if you heal with that, it procs another heal. See, Planetary Indulgence over there is a 200 potency heal, and that is on everybody AoE. So if you have a really big AoE phase coming up and you need to you just need to top off the group before another mechanic comes out, you would use Plenary Indulgence. And then I actually like to use Medica 2 with it, because Medica 2 then becomes stronger than Medica 1 in the initial heal and then the regen, obviously, because since this adds 200 potency, Medica 2 then becomes a 450 potency, and it puts the regen on, whereas Medica 2 is just a 600 potency, but there's no regen. So this is stronger than a normal Medica, but obviously Medica would be a little bit stronger as well, but the regen from Medica 2 is what makes it so strong. And you could also use it with the Flatus Rupture, and as well for really, really strong AoE healing, Tier 3, because it does affect Tier 3 as well, all your AoE pretty much. And yeah, so that's extremely strong AoE healing there. And then one of my favorite skills is Temperance, which we just call the Wings. Now this increases your healing magic done, I think by 20%. And it also reduces the damage taken in anyone in the group by 10%. Yeah, 10% for 30 yalms around the target. Excuse me there. So that increases your healing and reduces everyone's damage. You could use that as a tank cooldown during a dungeon, or even in the raid or something. If the tank if it's a really oh shit moment and everybody's gonna die, tank's gonna die, you can use that for damage reduction, and you do increased healing as well. Now the cooldown is 2 minutes. It's not the longest, but it's not the shortest, so use it, but don't I guess you could just use it whenever you want, but if you start trying to use it for stuff that you know is going to happen. But if you're doing dungeons or something like that, always use it on the boss or the trash, somewhere like that, because that will definitely be 2 minutes between all the pulls and things. But yeah, really good skill. And then Lucid Dreaming is our MP regen. Well, everybody has this. All healers have Lucid Dreaming as well. And this is on a 60-second cooldown, but it has a 21-second duration. So that means it's going to be 39 seconds of downtime. So you should honestly use this off cooldown. As soon as it comes up, use it. But I like to use it in the start of a pull. Once I hit about 7k MP, then I pop Lucid Dreaming. And then it will start regening you up. And obviously you'll carry on doing your rotation and healing and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, just try and use that off cooldown as much as possible. And it's really good. It's a really good way to regen your MP, since you do have high costing mana skills. And then we do have shields that I haven't spoken about yet. So Divine Venison is a 500 potency shield, and it has 2 charges with a 30-second recharge time. Also, don't let this stack on 2, because then you're wasting that pretty much. It's for free. But yeah, chuck that up on your tank quite often, or just before a tank buster as well. Since it's instant cast, it's really good. And another shield we have is Aqua Veil as well, which is 15% reduced damage on a party member. This is a minute cooldown, and you can only have 1. So that I would say for big tank busters that you know are coming up, or just if something happens and the tank is going to hit by something that you guys, nobody remembered the tank buster, it's a surprise one, chuck that on, it's instant cast, and it should save his life. And what have we got left? Oh, we've got our Lily Bell left. So Lily Bell is our newest level 90 skill. You place this down and it summons this bell. It gives you 5 stacks of Liturgy of the Bell, and pretty much if AoE happens or anybody gets hit during this duration, 1 stack will go off and heal you. But if nothing happens during the duration, once the duration runs out, it will just do the heal anyway. We'll use this, it will take up all the remaining stacks and do a heal. So that if you time it right and there's multiple AoEs coming out, you could put it down and it will heal through all of the AoEs pretty much, because as soon as damage comes out, it heals a stack. And it is a 400 potency heal. Basically Medica. So it's free Medica, instant cast. Is on a bit of a longish cooldown. What's that? 3 minutes? Yeah, so use it, but save it for something that you know is coming up, or try and plan it. Try and use it early on a really early AoE so you don't have to heal through it and you can do your opener. I like to use it on the new trial, the extreme trial from level 90. I put it right at this, I don't put it as we come in, but there's an AoE that comes out and I put it down as that AoE goes off, and then there's another AoE a few seconds later and it heals through both of those AoEs, and I can just spam my DPS the whole time. So I have an uninterrupted opener and the bell just heals everything, and it's great for that. And that's really all there is to White Mage. If I missed anything and you have any questions, ask me down below and I will make sure to answer them as best as I can. And just keep smashing that sub button like you guys have been. Really appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Augustin out.
Run free and dive into the sky. Hear the wind crying out its breath.